This wasn't just a duel. It was the moment an entire war tilted on its axis. On the plains outside Troy, two men stood at the edge of history. They both knew only one would walk away, and they both knew that even the victor would carry a loss that no victory could ever erase. By the time this moment arrived, the Trojan War had already devoured years of blood and pride. Thousands had died for a conflict that began with a stolen promise and was fueled by the wounded egos of kings. Gods interfered, mortals argued, and soldiers paid the ultimate price, all while the end of the war seemed no closer than its beginning. Achilles, the greatest warrior the Greeks had ever known, had once abandoned the battlefield. His pride was wounded, and with it his loyalty to the war effort. Without him, the Greek army faltered, their morale collapsed, and Troy began to believe that endurance alone might just save them. For the first time in years, real hope entered the city's high walls. That hope had a name: Hector. He wasn't a demigod, not protected by invulnerability or divine favoritism. He didn't fight for songs to be sung about him or for statues to be built in his honor. Hector fought because Troy needed him to stand where others couldn't. Every single battle he entered was a conscious choice to face death, so that others might live just one more day. While Achilles fought for personal glory, Hector fought for collective responsibility. He would return home between battles, look into the eyes of his wife, and hold his infant son, knowing that each farewell could very well be the last. His strength wasn't just in his spear or his shield, but in his profound acceptance of what the war demanded from him. But everything changed when Achilles returned. His rage, once a simmering grievance, had erupted into a consuming fire. His presence alone shattered the fragile balance of the battlefield. Soldiers who once stood firm now hesitated. The war, which had dragged on through stalemates and indecision, suddenly found its momentum again, and it was moving straight towards Troy. Hector understood exactly what Achilles' return meant. He knew that no wall, no army, and no strategy could protect his city forever. So when the moment came for them to finally meet, Hector didn't rush toward his fate. He hesitated. He measured the immense weight of his choice, and then he ran. Not out of fear, but out of a terrible, clear-eyed understanding of what was at stake. He ran along the great walls of Troy, past the very city he had sworn his life to defend, while the gods watched on, offering no mercy. Achilles followed, relentless and silent, like death itself closing the distance. This pursuit wasn't merely physical. It was destiny tightening its grip on both men, pulling them toward a conclusion that had been written long ago. When Hector finally stopped and turned to face Achilles, there were no heroic speeches left to give. There was only exhaustion, profound resolve, and the cold knowledge that this fight would end everything. The duel was swift and brutal, stripped of all illusion. Achilles struck with the chilling certainty of a man who had already accepted his own end. Hector fell, and with him fell Troy's last true shield. The city's walls still stood, but its future did not. In that single brutal moment, the war crossed a line from which it could never return. Yet this victory brought Achilles no peace. His rage didn't fade with Hector's death. It only deepened, twisted by grief. Driven by an unbearable loss, he dishonored Hector's body, dragging it behind his chariot in a display that defied the sacred customs of both men and gods. The greatest warrior alive had just revealed his greatest weakness, an inability to let go of his pain. This act shocked even those who fought beside him. Achilles had conquered his enemy, but he could not conquer himself. His strength could break entire armies, but it could not heal what the war had taken from him. The death of Hector marked the beginning of the end for Troy. Without him, the city's fall became inevitable, but Achilles' triumph was not without its own dark shadow. He had long known that choosing a life of glory meant choosing a short one, and with this victory he stepped ever closer to that inescapable fate. This is why the story of Achilles and Hector has survived for thousands of years. It's not simply a tale of war. It's a story of pride versus duty, of rage versus responsibility, and of the pursuit of glory versus the weight of humanity. It reminds us that even the strongest among us cannot escape the cost of our choices, and that sometimes the most decisive victories are also the most tragic. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more journeys into the heart of mythology.